I bring greetings on behalf of the CARICOM Private Sector Organization, and in particular, our Chairman, Gervais Warner, and our Executive Committee. The CPSO was formed in 2019, inaugurated in 2020, and our role is to contribute fully to the implementation of the CSME. It is with immense pleasure that the CPSO participates in the launch of this Trinidad and Tobago Coalition of Service Industries doing business with the World Series today. This event today is occurring at a critical juncture as the world economy recovers from various external shocks and crises, economic, political, and social, which are recontouring the global economy. Any attempt to pivot must give credence to the due recognition and to the immense potential that trade and services coupled with information technology can have on regional development. Service industries in CARICOM countries continue to offer important opportunities, and we've heard that, both for regional development and for the attainment of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. As many of you are no doubt aware, and we've heard it for Trinidad and Tobago at 63%, for the region as a whole, the services sector accounts for between 43 and 87% of the GDP of Caribbean economies. And of course, over 60% of our firms are micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. According to UNCTAD, global services exports for 2022 reached $7 trillion with potential to increase to $8 trillion in 2025. We're in the middle of an exercise with the CPSO over the next month of looking at global economic prospects for regional economies. Additionally, the WTO projects that services trade will increase by 50% by 2040. For developing countries like Trinidad and Tobago and CARICOM, the corresponding increase is projected to be at least 15%. Now, these statistics bear out the immense opportunity for CARICOM, particularly as our economies emerge from the economic and social vicissitudes of the past 3 years. As the economy approaches its 50th year as an integration grouping, it is therefore extremely important for us to focus on the important opportunities that the services sector can generate as a key driver for expansion and consolidation of regional trade gains for member states. I just want to acknowledge the very cogent analysis put by my dear friend, the ambassador from Jamaica, when he points to the 4 key roles of the services sector. It's often forgotten that the services sector is an important pull sector in CARICOM. So for instance, the initiative launched on 25 by 25, which has now led the region to focus on reducing food imports by 25% by 2025, was born in the context of the most expansive tourism growth that we've seen in the last 2 decades in 2019. And what that did is that it led agri-food imports in CARICOM to shoot up to record highs. Again, when the services sector grows, it pulls other economic sectors. And for us in the CPSO, that's why it's so important, because the services sector's expansion in it has something for all the economies and for all the sectors, particularly the micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. So for us in the CPSO, we have viewed this issue of the services expansion and the services trade, which we want to see take place in CARICOM, in the context of what we call a services value hub. And for us, this construct of the services value hub can alter the growth and development trajectory, enabling, for instance, CARICOM to accelerate its progress towards the full implementation of the CARICOM single market and economy. I want to say that talking here today in Trinidad and Tobago, it is important for me to remind the audience that Trinidad and Tobago is one of the most significant beneficiaries of the CSME. And this is why I think it's so important for us in talking about the services expansion and talking about the linkages to the other economic sectors, to speak, again, with the invitation that you've given us at TTCSI about the importance of the services sector including for the countries that we've called the smaller economies in the region, where incidentally, the OECS countries and those economies that are smaller, a larger percentage of their firms actually do have a competitive advantage in services rather than in goods. And so, speaking today from the CPSO's perspective, this Services Value Hub is therefore consistent with the relevant provisions for us of what we've looked at as the seminal document of the CSME, which is, of course, the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas, and I'm talking here about Chapter 3, which has a number of provisions that speaks to how we expand and develop the services sector. It's also consistent, as we've heard from many of the speakers, with the regional strategies and, of course, with the plans of the countries. And this advancement of the services sector, if we are faithful to it, can in fact pull the entire CSME along. So for us, this construct of the Services Value Hub must now bring a focus on what I want to talk about as 4 key things, perhaps 5. A focus, Vashti, on services, statistics, and information. I have to say that we are the proud beneficiaries, as the CPSO, in utilizing the services statistics from the TTCSI during COVID, in putting together a document which actually advised on how we could measure and take a number of the economies out of lockdown. But we need to do more. We need to bring a number of the other countries on board with these statistics so that, of course, we can understand not just the opportunities, but also understand the strategic risk if we don't move with alacrity in terms of developing these opportunities. It's also important, and this is my second point, it's important when we talk about the Services Value Hub to talk about how we develop the orange economy. And the orange economy, as you know, includes the cultural and creative services, the entertainment, and the creative economy. The third thing is that it's important when we talk about the Services Value Hub to talk about how we focus on, and what we want to say is unshackle the knowledge economy, including what we heard from the distinguished ambassador from Cuba, professional services. The fourth area is how we use the services sector to develop low-cost, high-quality goods, and the producers of more orange economy and knowledge-intensive products and services. And the fifth one is, given all we've heard on digitization, is how do we use this notion of the Services Value Hub to integrate meaningfully ICT. But colleagues, it would be remiss of me not to join Mark Edgill in saying today that we must now consider how artificial intelligence will impact the Services Value Hub. Now, already, many persons working in that field from the Caribbean are saying that the ask of many of the global companies in terms of what artificial intelligence can do is a matter that we ought to be very concerned about if you think about business process operations, if you think about content creation, if you think about professional services, if you think about many of the things that our development plans have been premised on. So colleagues, commendably today, the TCCSI has pioneered a number of initiatives which can serve as a catalyst and as a sound conceptual framework for the implementation plans that we have aimed at expediting growth in the services sector. And so it's just left for me to say, Mark, Vash, the others, our chairman has said to me to extend to you that the CPSO is willing, ready, and prepared to partner with you in bringing to the regional private sector, including your partners in Trinidad and Tobago, a specific seminar initiative that looks at artificial intelligence and its impact on the services sector opportunities, yes, within the context of the region. So colleagues, as I wrap up, let me just, again, join with others in saying that the CPSO remains committed to working, and as the Permanent Secretary from the Ministry of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs have told us, given our mandate, not just working but advocating as the what we call the sort of organization on behalf of the private sector, leading the charge in the CSME in advocating for the further development of the services sector. Neville, I want to give due credence to what you said about where the bottlenecks are. about where the things that we haven't done for the last 50 years now need to be done as a matter of urgency. And I want to say that we are committed in bringing our resources, in partnering with the private sector across the region. And I want to just let you know, because you haven't heard it before, that Vashti is already working with our secretariat and leading a working group on services aimed at doing two things. One, creating similar institutions at the national level. And two, bringing the services of the TTCSI, as we've seen it here today, making that essentially available to the private sector in other countries. And it is that partnership, that joining of the whole, that will ultimately make us stronger. So, on behalf of the regional private sector, we again congratulate and commend the TTCSI for this initiative being launched here today. And we encourage all stakeholders, and we're particularly delighted to see the diplomatic missions here, to participate and support this important initiative on doing business with the World Series. And so, colleagues, thank you. Thank you very much.